Good morning, students. We'll wait for 1 minute and then we'll start. In the meantime, I'll share my screen. So yesterday we have stopped at organizational design. So what is organizational design? The short form, what we call as acronym is OD. It is the creation or change of an organization structure. That is called as organizational design. Now, the design of a company reflects its efforts to respond to changes. It integrates new elements, ensures collaboration, and also allows flexibility. So, in the past, when organizations were commonly structured as bureaucracies, so what is bureaucracy? A bureaucracy is a form of organization based on logic, order, and legitimate use of formal authority. So, bureaucracies are meant to be orderly, they are fair and very highly efficient. So these features include a clear-cut division of labor, strict hierarchy of authority, formal rules and procedures. Promotion is based on competency. So a research has been conducted in England by Tom Burns and George Starker in the early years of 1960s, and they have attempted to answer certain questions. So, what are the questions? When is a bureaucracy a good choice for an organization, and what can be the alternatives which exist when bureaucracy is not a good choice? So they have given two distinct frameworks. One is mechanistic structure. So the mechanistic structure sometimes used synonymously with bureaucratic structure. So it is a management system which is based on formal framework of authority. And here we have clearly specified tasks, precise definition of the rights and obligations of the members, clearly defined line and staff positions. And then we also have a tendency towards formal communication. Okay, they follow a formal flow of communication from top to bottom or bottom to top. And we have the other structure, organic structure. Now, what is this organic structure? It is a management system. The basic principle which is formed is cooperation and knowledge-based authority. So, unlike mechanistic organization, we have less formal system in organic structure. So here we can see that the roles are not highly defined. The tasks are continually redefined based on the necessities, and they rely little on formal authority. We have decentralized control. Everywhere you have the decentralization. Every system or form or group is decentralized with an authority, and you have fast decision making. Whenever there is a decentralized control, you have quick decision making. And moreover, you can see that there is an informal pattern of delegation as well as communication. There is no hard and fast rule that the communication should reach from only A. So if the communication is reaching from C or D, if it is valid information, if it can be applied for the goal accomplishment, that can be utilized. Now, coming to the approaches to the organizational design, managers must make choices about how to people together to perform their work. So basically, there are five common approaches, that is the functional, divisional, matrix, team, and networking. So these are the five approaches which help managers to determine the departmental grouping. And what can be the challenges of the organizational behavior? There are many challenges for the managers while managing organizational behavior. So here we have challenges and opportunities of organizational behavior can be massive, can be rapidly changing, and these changes are for the betterment of the organization and the productivity. So here we have uh, some kind of critical issues which confront the managers, that is the improved people skills. So technological changes, structural changes, environmental changes, all these accelerate a fast rate in business field. So unless employees and executives are equipped with the required skills, and if they are ready to adapt to those changes, then only the targeted results can be achieved. So the managers have to have designing an effective performance appraisal system. And this system should have built-in training facilities, which will actually upgrade the skills and the techniques what an employee can use, which will help him to cope up with the demands of the external environment. And second can be improving quality and productivity. Quality is the extent to which the customer or the users believe the product or service or any service it surpasses their needs and expectations. So here we have re-engineering. What is re-engineering? It refers to discrete initiatives that are intended to achieve radically, and these are redesigned based on time framework. Okay. And the managers, what should they do? They should understand that any effort to improve quality and productivity must influence their employees. That is, they have to actively participate in planning, and they should put their maximum effort in meeting the customer requirements. There should be a regular communication. Now, this regular communication can be both formal as well as informal. And it should be at all the levels, at all the staff levels. This two-way communication is to be promoted by the managers. And then we have managing workforce diversity. This refers to employing different categories of employees. And here we are talking about the heterogeneity in terms of gender, in terms of race, relation, community, okay, and it can be physically disadvantaged or elderly people, so on and so forth. So why would the organization go for heterogeneous category? The reason is simple. It is to tap the talents. We have different potentialities and we have different innovativeness. And then with the diverse workforce, you have people coming with different skills and with different potentialities, which are actually useful for the organizational growth and development. And moreover, if employees want to retain these individual and cultural identity, values, and lifestyles, and this will be improved in an organization with diverse workforce. Okay. And all of them working for common rules and regulations. So you're not changing the rules and regulations for different set of religions or different set of race or caste or creed, right? So the rules and regulations are common for every employee who has joined the organization. So here managers have to shift their philosophy from treating everyone alike to recognizing the individual differences and responding to those differences, which ensures employee retention and productivity. So the next one would be the responding to globalization. So what is globalization? Where the demand exists irrespective of distance, location, or it can be climatic conditions. And beyond this, if an organization expands its business operations, we call it as globalization. And globalization will affect a managerial skill. Either manager has to manage with a workforce with very different needs and aspirations, or it can be understanding the culture of the local people and how it has shaped them. Accordingly, he has to learn and adapt to meet the requirements. And you have the next one being the empowering people, delegating more power and responsibility to the lower level cadre of the employees, And moreover, you assign them with more freedom so that they can make choices, or they have their own set of schedules, operations, procedures, or it can be solving any issue relating to the work related problem. So you are giving that leverage to the employees to do at their best at their own level. So here the executives must learn how to delegate, to what extent the delegation has to be done. And we have the next one is innovation and change. Yeah. So without innovation and without change, no organization can build itself, can grow, can expect any increase in the productivity. So just now we spoke about globalization. How can an organization go global when it is not implementing changes, when it is not into innovations? So innovations and changes are the basic requirements for any organization to grow beyond a particular scale. So here, what should the manager do? So manager should be uh, learning the new systems or the procedures which are actually useful for the organizational innovation and change. And the new concept, what has emerged now is the e-commerce. It refers to the business operations involving electronic mode of transactions. Now, this electronic mode is globally accepted. Virtual organizations where we are going beyond some structure. So when I'm saying organizational design and structure, actually there's no organization, but you are able to meet the requirements of the customers virtually. Okay, virtual organizations, like if suppose you take the example of Uber. Uber provides transport. I mean, it allows people to commute by taking Uber services. But as such, Uber doesn't own any cars or autos, right? So it is virtually controlling the business. So this is what is being observed in the current market. And this scenario has to be understood by the managers and try to implement whatever the changes which are required or which are demanded. And the next is the ethical behavior. Yeah. So you need to be, sorry, you need to be ethically defining what is right, what is wrong, what is the code of conduct, what are the things which you have to follow in an orderly manner for the accomplishment and task is all ethical behavior of the manager. And he should be ethical and he should also see that his employees are ethical in participating in the organizational affairs. Now, there are different disciplines which have been contributed to the organizational behavior. We have behavioral science, that is psychology. It is an applied science which will try to explain human behavior in particular situations and also predict the actions of the individuals in certain situations. You have social psychology. It is considered as a branch of psychology, but it blends the concepts from both psychology and sociology. Sociology focuses on the study of individual behavior. Sociology addresses itself to the study of group behavior. Then we have anthropology. It is the field of study relating to human activities in various cultural and environmental frameworks. And we also have political science, which studies the behavior of individuals and groups within the political environment. Now, effective scientific management and Hawthorne studies of on human behavior, where we have the scientific management, which was propounded by Frederick Taylor, and he's also called as the father of scientific management. So Taylor experimented in three different companies, that is Midway Steel, Simon's Rolling Machine, and Bethlehem Steel. And on the basis of these observations and findings, he has propounded the principles. Okay, so we have seen the 14 principles. So we have Hawthorne studies, and these Hawthorne studies have been conducted in General Electric Company, Chicago. And here we have 30,000 employees which have been dealt with the Hawthorne studies. So we have the implications of the Hawthorne experiments. We have social factors, group influence, conflict, communication, leadership, and supervision. So we have dealt with all these things in detail in chapter 1. And we also have models of organizational behavior. And the models are framework of possible explanation about how things work. So the cognitive, behavioralistic, and social learning models of the organizational behavior have considered three main theoretical frameworks. That is the cognitive approach. It emphasizes the positive and free will aspects of human behavior, and it uses the concepts such as expectancy, demand, and intention. What is cognition? It is the basic unit of the cognitive framework, which can be simply defined as the act of knowing an item of information. Then we have behavioristic framework, which concentrates on the observable behaviors. So here we have Ivan Pavlov. He evolved a theoretical model on the behavioristic approach. And we also have the Pavlov's model as stimulus response approach. So here what they said is when there is a stimulus, there would be a response. So we know how he trained with the help of his pet dog, the stimulus and response, where he has explained this with the operant conditioning. And we have the SOBC model, that is the stimuli, organism, behavior, and consequence. And we also have the social learning approach. The social learning approach integrates the thoughts and the principles of both the cognitive and behavioralistic frameworks. And this you have, if you can see the figure, where you have the organizational behavior, organizational participants, and as well as the organization environment. And here you have the SECT, that is the social cognitive theory. And the goal of social cognitive theory is to explain how people regulate their behavior through control and reinforcement. So the limitations have also been given as they assume that changes in the environment will automatically lead to changes in the person, which is a basic limitation of the SCT model. And then we have Keith Davis model of organizational behavior. And in the Keith Davis model, there are four models of the organizational behavior. That is the autocratic, custodial, supportive, and collegial. So here we have, under autocratic, we have power, authority, obedience, dependence, subsistence. And when we talk about the performance result, it would be at minimum. So autocratic model is a model which will be depending upon the strength, power, and formal authority. So when I'm talking about the power, they have the power to control the things. They have the power to dictate terms and conditions to the employees and see that the work is done according to their authority. When we are talking about the freedom of the employees, it is absolutely nil. They have to just follow the orders in the autocratic model. In the custodial model, it is based on providing economic security for the employees. Now, when I'm talking about the economic security, here the basic focus is on wages and all other benefits which are provided to the employee. And then we have the supportive model. So unlike the two earlier approaches, we have the supportive model, which basically focuses around aspiring leadership. So it is not based on control or authority, or it is not focusing on incentives, but it tries to motivate staff through the relationship. Now, the relationship between the manager and the employee, and how the employees are treated on day-to-day basis, that is on the day-to-day roles, their performance, the appreciation, that is more dealt under supportive model. And we have the collegial model. It is based around teamwork, everybody working as colleagues. Hence, the name of the model has been derived. The overall environment, and when we see the corporate culture, all these are aligned in this particular model. And when we see the relationship between these models and the organizational behavior, if you remember, we have done McGregor's Theory X. So Theory X is more of autocratic model, and Theory Y is more the collegial model, where it focuses on working with the employees as a team. And what is the basic model of organizational behavior? The basic model is an abstraction of reality. It is simplified by representing some real world examples. So there are three basic levels: the individual, group and organizational. When we are talking about the dependent variables, these are the key factors that managers would like to explain or predict, and this is affected by some other factors called as dependent variables. So the dependent variables are productivity, and then we have the absenteeism. Absenteeism is nothing but failure of the employees to report to work. Employee turnover, it can be voluntary or involuntary. So people leaving the organization. Organizational citizenship. So citizenship behavior is discretionary behavior, and it is not part of an employee's formal job requirements, but nevertheless, it promotes the effective functioning of the organization. And finally, we have job satisfaction, and this is what do we say is individualistic satisfaction levels, satisfaction, getting a kind of motivation and performance leading to satisfaction. All these are different for different set of individuals. And then we have independent variables that can be at the individual level, and it can be at the group level, and it can be at the organizational system level. Now we have the systems approach to organizational behavior. Now systems approach also we have done inputs. So the inputs are taken from the environment, the process will be done, and the outcomes, whatever the outcomes are there, that will be again given back to the environment for the usage. That is what the systems approach deals with. Now coming to the individual and group behavior. Here we have the personality. So what is personality? The concept of personality is an elusive as human being himself as considered as a complex being. So when we are talking about personality, it is dynamic, multifaceted, and it is ubiquitous. So it is not simple to understand what constitutes the meaning of personality. So when we are talking about the definition, it is derived from the word Latin persona, which means the mask. So personality is sum of physical and mental and social qualities which can be integrated. So what can be integrated? There are two basic approaches: the psychological and sociological. The psychological approach considers personality as a certain style, which is very peculiar to that particular individual. And this style is determined by characteristics, organization, that is the mental trends, the complexities, the emotions, the sentiments, whatever he is bringing with him. And and we have the sociological. So the sociological is something which is relating to the personality, which is approved by social characteristics. Okay. So here we have the determinants of personality. So there are many behavioral science experts who have made an attempt to identify the various factors. We have the determinants as hereditary and environment. Socialization process, it refers to the process by which individuals get acquainted with and are influenced by various factors in the environment in which they live. And here we have culture. Culture makes a human being out of biological organism, and the way the person interacts, the interaction of the person with the other person is based on the culture, the values, what they give, the the values which they grew up, which will actually frame the personality. And the family, it is the most important primary institution in the society, which is the first agent of socialization, wherein if you see in the family, generally the first bonds are usually overprotected, they are pampered than the later born. So this is the family structure. The first born generally get much of the attention. And group membership, man is a social animal through which where we can say that a man cannot be isolated. He can live only with a group. Okay, even if you put a man on an island, so if you put a man on an island, he cannot survive. He needs people where he wants to interact, he wants to share. So we say that man is a social animal. Why social? Because he cannot live all alone. He needs people, he needs members. And the life experiences are described as those individual encounters with various situations of relationship with others. So you might face problems, you might face happiness, you might get solutions, you might take decisions. So all these are with life experiences. Okay. And then we have the theories of personality. We have the traits theory. So this trait theory is the classical approach, and this will help to understand personality. And it will try to describe the personality as a set of traits. What are traits? Traits are nothing but the characteristics. So they are 171 distinct qualities in human beings. And in a few studies, they identified 17,953 distinguishing characteristics which human beings possess. So, I mean, the narrowing down is very, very difficult, but we have few characteristics, 16 personality characteristics which have been identified. Uh, Reserved, outgoing, less intelligent, more intelligent, emotional, not emotional, submissive, dominant, serious or happy go lucky, timid or venturesome. So, in this way, we have 16 personality factors which have been identified, which generally human beings possess. And again, we have the behavioral theories. These behavioral theories have been developed by Skinner, Bandura, and Walter. So, Skinner always believed that the behavior of people is determined by the environment in which they live consistently over a period of time. So we respond to the tendencies which are actually available in the environment, and if we are living in that environment for a period. And Bandura has said that the long-term research on how people learn to develop their personality. So personality is developed. They learn to develop the personality rather than it is inborn, it is inherent. And then we have the Walters model. He explained that situations have a strong influence on people's behavior, and whatever the responses to those situations the individual is reacting, it depends upon their thoughts and feelings and the likely consequences of their behavior. So all these things will be, I mean, going simultaneously in the mind, and the outcome is the resultant effect. And we also have humanistic theories. Now, the humanism, what is humanism? Humanistic psychologists try to see people's lives as those people who would see them. So they tend to have an optimistic perspective on human nature. They focus on the ability of human beings to think consciously and rationally. And then we have the Indian approach of personality, where the five aspects have been considered as Indian approach of personality. That is the physical development of an individual starts from the moment a child is in mother's womb. So Indian tradition is spoken of through the prescribed stages. Now, what are the four stages? Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So they during these life stages, you can see the person's personality developing, and you see how the person's personality is changing according to each and every stage. So that is the physical development, what the Indian approach to personality is speaking about. And then we have the mental. The mind is the superior to the body. Now, a strong mind will always remain calm, even in the situations of what do we say, adversities. Okay, it does not succumb to temptations, or it can, I mean, the immoral thoughts or actions, all these can be controlled when you have a strong mind. So the clarity of thinking, clarity of taking right decisions, right judgment, and having control over the emotions such as desire, anger, greed, fear, or hatred. All these are with the position of, I mean, you have a very strong mind, automatically you can control all these feelings. Intellectual strength is the superior. It is superior to the physical and the mental strength, and it is also an important form or part of our personality. So it is the originality or creativity, deep thinking. These can be the examples of the intellectual strength. Socio-moral, so it depends upon the discipline. And this is fundamentally indispensable to the fulfillment of the life. So the more you follow a schedule, your personality development is ethically equipped, and you follow a moral discipline, it comes under socio-moral. And the last would be the spiritual. Spiritual dimension of personality is less discussed in Western literature, but in Indian literature, where we are talking about the ancient times, the Upanishads have put forth the doctrine of uh, every individual. So, this doctrine of consciousness is the essence of the personality. That is what the Indian literature has focused. And we also have the big five personality factors. That is the extraversion. It is a dimension that captures one's comfort level in relationships with others. Agreeableness. Individual has a tendency to disappear to others. I mean, he disagrees to some extent, or it can be the most of the times he disagrees, and his agreeableness is decided by his personality. And then we have the emotional stability, which refers to the person's ability to cope up with the stress. And we have openness to experience. And moreover, we have the MBIT, that is Myers Briggs type indicator. And this was originally developed by a mother and a daughter duo. So they develop four components of the personalities, that is the extraversion or sensing, thinking, judging. Okay, so based on these four factors, combinations of these four factors, which has led to 16 permutations. And out of these 16, there are only three important combinations which the MBTI model has specified. And we also have the other theories of personality, such as locus of control. Uh, what is locus of control? It is the belief of the people that to what extent they control their own fate. Okay, you have internal locus of control, external locus of control. Okay, internal locus believes on the actions, what an individual does is the result of their fate. Whereas external, they believe that something external control because of which the fate of the individual is depending. Okay, so it can be internal or external. And we also have theory of Machiavellianism. So what is this theory of Machiavellianism? People have tendency to use manipulation to gain control and retain control over others. Okay, they have this tendency, and with this tendency, they try to achieve their goals. So this is what is called as theory of Machiavellianism. And then we have self-esteem. Every individual has sense of worth and dignity. So based on the self-esteem theory of personality, we believe that the sense of worth, what an individual feels about himself, where he has his own uh, I mean, he decides that he has the ability to do something. He has the ability to perform certain acts, and he has the capable. He's capable of doing a task, and that might lead to a success. This is what is the sense of worth of an individual. Based on that, the personality is develop. Self monitoring is a personality theory which is based on the assumption that every one of us constantly examine our own behavior, and this will definitely influence others. Whoever are observing, this would definitely influence them. And then we have type AB. Now, what is this type AB? This theory is based on the understanding of certain characteristics which are unique to individuals. And these are classified as type A individuals and type B individuals. Okay, based on type A, you have uh, a chronic sense of urgency. I mean, in whatever they do the work in hurriedly. And whereas you have other people taking uh, the works easily, okay, have more achievements to their credits. They try to take the things by understanding slowly, and their main task is to complete. So type A and type B personalities will be differing based on the individual factors again. And then we have the personality outcomes. So generally, the personality will try to influence the individual managers and their leadership style. Personality also helps in resolving the conflicts, better communication. And here you can be a coach to others. Either coaching can be taking people in achieving their task, or it can be sometimes leading to the negativity as well, and improving the skills. So all these things can be the outcomes of the personality. And here we have perception now. What is the perception? It is the awareness of something through the senses. It is the ability to see, to hear, to understand, and also to become aware of something. When we are talking from the organization perspective, it is the identification and interpretation of sensory information in order to represent and understand, present the information to the environment. So the way you look at the things, the way you understand, and the way you communicate should be same. That is what the perception means here. And what are the various theories which have been given under perception? A theory is understanding as a set of sentences in formal language. It is one of the components that form a theory, whereas a model is a theory presented with a structure, with an interpretation. And this should satisfy the sentences of that theory. Perceptual input, it is an input stage or the stimulus or stimuli. We are surrounded by three important things in this world, that is the objects, events, people. So here, all these three will be influencing the perceptual input. And then we have perceptual thoughtput. And then we have perceptual output and behavior. All these are relating factors. And when we see the factors which directly influence the perceptual inputs, we have the size. The bigger the size, you have a better understanding or a better view. Status, the higher the status of the person, the more will be the importance given. Intensity. So the strength of the stimulus is measured in terms of its wielded power. It can be the lights, it can be the colors, it can be the equipment, and then we have the appearance. So Shakespeare said, apparel of procliveth. So appearance often reveals about a person. So that would definitely be one of the factor. Repetition. So anything which is repetitive will draw more attention. Contrast. So any contrast in an object or an event being conducted, so it will be having a capturing surprise. Then we have novelty. So novelty is something different. When anything fancy, new, or unusual is there, that will definitely catch the attention. And then you have motion. During an office meeting, when office boys keep moving while serving tea, snacks, it might be to the liking of some, disliking to others. So some objects will be distracting, and some objects may not be distracting. So it all depends upon, again, the perception of an individual. So what are the factors influencing perceptual thoughtput? It can be the selection, uh, interpretation, that is when you are selecting, is the first step of the perception. It is the decision of what to do and what to attend. It depends upon the environment and it depends upon the individuals. So we focus on familiar stimulus or something new. So in a group of gathering, you just enter, and the moment you see the familiar faces, automatically you draw yourself to that familiar face. That is selection. And organization is the process of making sense out of the information arranged in our mind. So once we have chosen to attend to a stimulus in the environment, whether consciously or unconsciously, the choices sets off a series of reactions in our brain. Okay, so the mental representation is already framed in our minds. And interpretation is the final process at some meaning attached to the simile. And so the entire process of selection, organizing, and interpretation can be influenced by certain factors. And these are called as characteristics of situation. So it can be physical, or it can be social, it can be organizational, it can be the timing, or it can be the rules. So what are the factors influencing perceptual output? We have needs and motives, you have self concept, you have past experiences, you have psychological or emotional role, or we have other personality aspects as well. Now, the principles of perception is figure and ground. The principle explains a perceiver to distinguish factors that are significant for further study. So, while the meaningful, significant details are referred to as the figure, and the seemingly meaningless, insignificant portions are classified as the ground. Okay, and it can be the grouping, grouped on the basis of similarity or proximity. You try to group the things or the object. Simplifying according to this principle, simplification is an important step because in its absence, perceived or received simile remain complicated to the perceiver. And closure. So filling the missing gaps is very, very important. So organizing the perceptual stimuli to form a complete message is called as closure. Now, what are the errors in perception? Stereotyping. It is the process of judging someone on the basis of one's perception. Okay. Halo effect. It refers to the tendency of forming a better impression about an individual on the basis of a single characteristic. You can have selective perception, or it can be the attribution, or based on the selective distortions, or projections, or cultural influence. There are few things where you try to have the errors in the perception. You think that the person is of a particular nature by seeing that if a person is reading a book, a computer book, doesn't mean that he has computer's knowledge. It might be that he is reading for learning, or he's reading for time pass, or he's only holding a book for the sake of holding it. So based on that, you cannot frame your perception. And how to improve perception? It is first, you have to know oneself accurately, and you have to be empathetic with others, and you should have a positive attitude. Never always judge people with a negative attitude. And a positive impression formation is very, very important. And moreover, the communication should be open. Okay. So if the communication is not open, you cannot trust the person. And moreover, you should have comparing perception. That is, you can have uh, you have to put yourself in other shoes and see how it looks. That is what it means. That is wherein you can compare what other feels from his or her perspective. And you have the diversity in management. So a manager should always start diversity management programs. And in this program, one will learn to understand people from different backgrounds. And then they try to start accommodating those differences, which are very, very useful in the work performance. And we have the next concept, this concept of learning. So what is learning? Learning is an important aspect of cognitive processes. And learning is an acquired behavior. You learn. Okay, it is not by birth you acquire something. Learning is an acquired behavior. So as the child grows, learning takes place through other methods, through other processes, by observation, by trial, by social or environmental factors. And the amount of learning is reflected by the way the person is matured or immature with his behaviors. Rewards and punishments also play a very important phenomenon in learning. And when we see learning, it definitely results in the behavioral change. And change takes place through a practice or experience. And the changed behavior is relatively permanent. So here we have the theories of learning, that is the classical conditioning theory by Pavlov. So what did he do? He has created the stimulus response where he trained his dog. He started feeding his dog and he used to ring the bell, the doorbell. So after a few days, the dog learned that whenever the doorbell rings, the food will be given to the dog. So that was the stimulus response what Pavlov has created. And we have operant conditioning. And see if you can see the figure. There's a bell. Initially, there was no response. And then, when the food was provided and the bell was rang, it understood, it has learned that whenever the bell rings, the food will be supplied. And here we have the classical conditioning and operant conditioning. Classical conditioning responses are reactive, whereas in the operant conditioning, responses are proactive, responses are fixed to stimulus, and conditioned stimulus is provided under classical conditioning, whereas responses are variable in types of degrees of choices, and it is a situation such as office or social settings which will try to bring out certain behaviors. And then we have the social learning theory. This social learning theory recognizes and draws from the principles of classical and operant conditioning. So social learning takes the position that behavior can be best be explained in terms of continuous reciprocal interaction among cognitive behavior. So it can be the forethought, modeling, self-regulation, and self-regulation. And then we have uh, experiential learning theory. So this theory has been conceptualized in the most enduring perspective. And this model explains experiential learning as a cyclical four-stage process. So the first stage is concrete experience, wherein the subject involves through the sensory or the emotional engagement. And the next stage would be the abstract conceptualization, wherein we try to relate our observations with the theories of experiences. And the last stage would be the test of our previous experiences with the current scenario. And we have the learning theories which have been given by how an individual tries to learn from the internal or the external environment. And then we have the individual and the group behavior. So here we have the attitudes and values which have a significant influence on the human behavior. So what is work attitude? It is defined as the utilization of physiological uh, and mental processes to achieve a goal or complete a task. And what do you mean by an attitude? Attitude can be defined as a persistent tendency to feel and behave in a particular way towards some object. Attitudes can be characterized as they are stable and persistent. They fall in a continuum from very favorable to very unfavorable, and they are directed towards some object about which a person has feelings and beliefs. And here we have the components of the attitudes which have been represented as the ABC model. That is an affective component. So the affective components are the feelings, sentiments, moods, and emotions. And then you have the cognitive. Cognitive is the beliefs and opinions and the knowledge or the information held by the individual. And then we have the behavioral component. This is the predisposition to get on a favorable or unfavorable evaluation. Now, how do you form attitudes? It can be through the direct experiences with the object you develop. It can be a rewarding or a punishing experience. It can be the association. It can be by observation, or it can be through the influence of the family and the peer groups, or it can be the neighborhood, or it also depends upon the economic status and occupation. Now, what can be the functions? When we are talking about the functions of attitude and positive effective orientations, so what are positive effective orientations to work, which can be interpreted? Positive, I'm talking about. So, willingness to work, you believe in hard work, you believe in honesty, you take pride in work, you derive satisfaction while working. All these are the positives. And when we are talking about the work attitudes and the personality, work attitudes are not purely environmental, and they are partially due to our own personality, what we have. Some people have a disposition to be happy in life, and they have they want to work regardless of the environmental factors. So this can be termed as a positive emotional orientation. But at the same time, you also have negative moods, negative emotional orientations, which are reflected in the work sphere. So when we are talking about the five-factor model of the personality, that is the agreeableness, conscientiousness, neuroticism, extraversion, and then we have the openness to experience, what we have discussed just now, will definitely have an influence on the attitude. Employee attitudes need to be changed, particularly when they are unfavorable. So when you have unfavorable attitude, it is necessary that you change that behavior. But changing attitudes is a difficult task. So the difficulty in changing the attitudes can be of three barriers. That is the escalation of commitment. That is, people generally, the tendency of the people is to, they fear to give prior commitment because they are unwilling to change. They don't give the commitment of change. Cognitive dissonance, it is a state of inconsistency between what an individual's attitude is there and what kind of a behavior he shows. And you have insufficient information. People don't see any reason why their attitudes have to change. I mean, they are okay with their attitude. And if others are not okay, it is the others who have to change, not the person who has a negative attitude. This is the general tendency of the people. Why I should change? What is the reason? Okay. And what can be the ways to changing attitudes? Now, attitudes should be changed at two fronts. That is changing one's own attitude. How do you do that? Be aware of one's own attitude. Think for self. Realize that there are few negative attitudes which are to be corrected. You have to keep an open mind. Get into continuous education programs where you can change. Build a positive attitude and self-esteem. And the next would be the changing the employee's attitude. Give feedback constantly about the negative attitude. Develop positive working conditions. You become more positive. Provide new information, use moderate degree of fear occasionally. So all these are the things what you can do to change the employee's attitude. Value system, and work value. What is value? It represents the stable, long-lasting beliefs about what is important. They are evaluative statements that help us define what is right, what is wrong, What is good? What is bad? And what is value system? Value system is an enduring organization of values along with the continuum of relevant importance. Value systems are a set of individual values which exist in a scale or a hierarchy that reveals their degree of relative importance. Work values. It is the conceptions of what is desirable that individuals should hold with respect to their work activity. And there are different models and framework of values. We have tangible values of the business and intangible values. Tangible can be the physical values of the business. Physical values related to the tangible assets like building, land, structure, or non-movable assets. Monetary values. Monetary values can be measured in terms of money. Efficiency of performance. An efficient manager is one who achieves outputs or results with minimum inputs. And what are intangible values of the business? These are values based on the perception of an individual. Again, these are subjective, these are non-measurable, and these are all satisfaction based. So if you can see the tangible and the intangible values presented on a continuum. And what is work commitment? So it is the feeling or responsibility that a person has towards the mission and goals of an organization. When an individual has work commitment, he or she is more likely to perform tasks and responsibilities with a perception to achieve the organizational goal. And we also have group, small group, group dynamics. What is a group? It is widely recognized as an important sociological or psychological unit of analysis. So it can be a small group, which has been defined as a collective of interacting individuals who have common goals. And when we are talking about a group exists because of its members, and these group has motivated people and they perceive with a common goal, they contribute to achieve the common goal, and they reach to an agreement or disagreement, but on a common point. So small groups are regarded as small. I mean, it has a face-to-face interaction, can take amongst the group of members. They discuss, they talk, and they try to complete the task. And what do you mean by group dynamics? The word dynamics has been derived from the Greek word meaning force. So the social process by which people interact face to face in small groups is called as group dynamics. And group formation theories, it can be based on certain theories. We have Hohmann's classic theory. So this classic theory was developed by George Hohmann, and he suggests that groups develop based on three elements. That is the activities, what they perform in common, the interactions, what they have between themselves, and the interactions actually which will develop the attitudes. It can be the positive attitude or the negative attitude towards each other. And the sentiments, what they come together, they form. And we also have Theodore Newcomb's classic balance theory. So as per the classic balance theory, we have the individual X, individual Y, and Z. The diagram has been specifically mentioned. Individual X will interact and form a relationship or a group with individual Y because of the common attitude and values of Z. Okay. So here, because of the common objects and the common goals, people will try to form a group. Social exchange theory says that it is an alternative explanation for the group development. And according to this theory, individuals form relationships based on the implicit expectation of mutual beneficial exchanges. So, I mean, it all depends upon the reward and the incentive, what they get because they form a part of a group. And Tuckman's group formation stages. So Tuckman in the year 1965, he has given the 5 stages. That is the forming. This is the initial stage, which is marked by uncertainty and even confusion. So you all come together as to be a group, and there are so many doubts. Will I be accepted? Do I have the power to take the decisions? Do I have to do this with some kind of confusion. You are in the stage of forming. Then comes the storming. This stage of development is indicated with the conflict and confrontation. I mean, emotionally, you are new in the group, so you try to have the conflicts, disagreements, and disagreements during performing certain roles, and all that can be observed in the stage of storming. Norming is the stage where members begin to settle. I mean, they start collaborating, they start cooperating with each other. And performing is the stage where the group is fully functioning and they are devoted to effectively accomplish the task. And adjourning, like it is the end stage, whatever task they have come to perform, they have completed in the performing stage. In the adjourning stage, they try to disorient. I mean, because groups are of temporary nature, and once the task is performed, they go back to their respective works or respective departments. That is what is called as adjourning. And then you have types of groups. So the types of groups can be formal work group or informal group. And when we are seeing, they can be a small group or a large group or a primary group or a secondary group. We have coalitions, membership, and reference groups, and out groups. So what are primary groups? These are identified as fundamental type of small groups which are characterized by intimate association and cooperation, and secondary groups which are formed and maintained to accomplish a task. And then you have a formal group. These groups are defined by the organization structure. This group is formed by the organization itself. And there it can be a temporary group, permanent group, command group, task group, committee group, depending upon the work, what has been assigned, you form a group. And in every organization, whether they form or not, you have informal groups. These are designated groups, and out of friendship, maybe two people coming from the same place of residence, they form a group. The break times are common. So from different departments, people will come and they form a group. So the informal groups can be the apathetic group or erratic group, or it can be the strategic groups, or it can be the conservative groups. And these are formed based on their affinity with each other. They need not be related, but out of friendship, they become a informal group. And we have the coalitions. So this is the recent research which has been developed. According to that, you have interacting group of individuals, and they lack any formal structure, they lack any mutual trust, and sorry, they lack the mutual perception of the membership. So this is the form of group. And other than that, we have membership groups, reference groups, in groups, out groups, and these are the task groups. So what are the factors which influence in formation of a group? It can be the economic needs, or it can be the social needs. It can be the similarity. So, and based on these, the security factors or the psychological factors, or maybe the cultural factors sometimes, or the problem solving approach, they form a small group together. And the coming to the group norms, I'll continue this in the next session. So any doubts? Right? So from group dynamics, I'll start in the next session.